I owe these chambers to a patron. My art ought to earn me his favor. I want to take London by storm. The city shall be my stage. I must play my hand banking all I have. Only then is applause assured.
Bravo, William, bravo! You already have my applause. You can worry about posthumous fame later. For today, make do with this small room. Let London await you. The game played there is more their own making.
Many thanks, my lord, for your compliment and these chambers. Your visit here is a great honor. You alone turned the room into a salon.
I left the lordship outside the door. I am here, like-minded, nothing more. 'Tis for the theatre that I shall live, which is why even this awful rhyme you must forgive.
Then feel forgiven, man of like mind. I call him friend, and put the clichés to rest. What brings you here?
My curiosity. How far has your work flourished?
It's moving along. I'm gathering stones, but they're not worthy to build a house with.
Because you aspire to a palace and not a cottage.
My friend, you encourage me far more with your words than with all the other gifts. I would only be too glad to give you something in return, but the piece, it needs more time.
Then you shall have it. But I do ask you for one thing. Read what you have written till now out loud to my daughter. She has a nose for stories, and her inquisitiveness shall drive you onward.
As you wish, my lord, though I have my doubts.
I wish it, and shall dispel your doubts in a trace. Anne, my dearest, please step in.
Here I am, Father.
So quickly? You haven't been eavesdropping, have you?
No, listening at the door is not good manners.
But snatching up a few words through a crack in the doorway while walking by can occur from time to time, can't it? Be that as it may, I take great pleasure in introducing you to Uильямом Shekspir. And you, William, to my one and only Anne.
I am very pleased to make your acquaintance, Master Shakespeare.
The pleasure is all mine, milady.
What is the name of the tale that you're supposed to tell me?
The story is called, it's called Veronese Romance. It
sounds like an Italian noodle speciality.
It's the current working title.
A start, William, a start. At which I, however, shall now have to leave you. Take heed of Anne, and copious success in quenching the curiosity with which she tends to torment me.
Where have I put? It's got to be somewhere here.
Are you looking for the story, Master Shakespeare?
What? No, merely my notes for the beginning.
Can't you get started without them?
Oh, I got its start all right, many years ago.
And where, pray tell?
This story is set in far-off Verona. There was once two houses, both alike in status and dignity, bonded by deep enmity. An ancient grudge, the weightiest burden on their future. New wounds slashed upon the sores of yore. Springing forth from star-crossed loins, a couple's love sated with tears, wept by the story's every listener, giving vent to their fears. Perk your ears, Miss Anne. I want to tell it to you. Off to Verona, the seat of the Montagues, to one of the two houses, where Romeo, its youngest scion, is awash in lovesick throes. The dispute is of no interest to him. All he can think of is Rosalind. A note intends to convince her of his love, and in turn, ignite her passion for him.
Have you already tried there?
The words that had still burned within him a moment ago, now brought to paper, will Romeo quickly carry to Rosalind. A sudden encounter with Mercutio at the door. In friendly restraint, he offers himself as messenger in Romeo's stead. He vows to deliver the epistle if Romeo sneaks with him into the enemy's home. A ball is to be held there, with many a fair damsel to forget the likes of Rosalind. Hosting the event are the veritable Capulets, whose house just now welcomes a guest of rank. Count Paris has come to speak with Capulet the elder. When Juliet, his daughter, hears of the Count's visit from a trusted nurse, she is bent on snatching a look at him. But Count and father converse in his drawing room, the doors locked and barred. Upon learning that the Count has asked her for her hand in marriage, Juliet begins to tremble, her knees turn weak. Just as she is about to go, her father's voice reaches her ears. He invites Count Paris to a masked ball that very evening. Mercutio and Romeo stand before the closely guarded Capulet gate. Each guest's identity is put to the test. Even their masquerade is to no avail. Should the two find no other means of entry, this eve's festivity shall go on without them. A door to the side becomes the ticket of admission, providing Mercutio and Romeo with a prompt way in. Having donned their masks, they mingle with the other guests. Juliet is a twitter as the ball looms ever closer. For hours now she has sought a fitting costume, garb to show her at her very best before all the other women attending. Like a magnet, Juliet wants the Count's eyes drawn to her. Juliet beams with joy at the sight of her new gown. Never before had she worn one as lovely to a ball. She slips into shoes, then it's off to the bustling ball, her intent to entice Count Paris with her charms. The Capulet Ball, with all the gleam of the nighttime sky and its sparkling stars, amongst all the magnificence, one of which is truly striking. It catches the eye of young Romeo. The lad leaves all brooding behind him and throws caution to the winds. The star, it attracts him, and just as surely he begins his orbit. That star is Juliet, who glances behind Romeo's mask and spies a man whom she will love for all eternity. Dancing, the two come closer and closer. But just as Romeo's lips gently nestle on Juliet's, her cousin Tybalt bursts between them, dashing the constellation in thunder. With a yell, he challenges Romeo to combat. Mercutio leaps to Romeo's side and drags his friend forth by the arm. In the midst of running, he roars at Romeo. Why must it be her? That's Capulet's daughter. The old nurse who hastens to Juliet's side cautions her anxiously. My child, the man you've kissed is none other than the young Montague. Juliet dashes to her chambers and locks the door, not knowing whether she should laugh or weep. Having barely escaped, Romeo is set on returning to her, though plagued by doubt whether he is able to love the daughter of a foe. So, what do you think of it, Miss Anne?
I don't know. Has Rosalind been forgotten so promptly?
Oh, she was merely a distraction, a puppet of straw for Romeo's sonnets.
Why was he supposed to mope around?
Because he enjoyed playing the part.
Well, I don't like him like that. Is he serious about Juliet?
Genuine is his love, Yet genuine too is the danger which imperils that very love.
What happens then, Master Shakespeare?
Where had we stopped?
At the point where Romeo flees and has misgivings whether he loves Juliet.
It's not misgivings towards the love, only about whether it can bear fruit.
It must. What could possibly prevent it when it is stronger than all the ancient hate?
A grudge riven deep, that's what stands in its way.
As an obstacle, yes, but one which can be hurdled.
Romeo is not a frog, you know.
Which is precisely why he must learn to leap.
All right, fine. I shall take that into account. Romeo loves and is beloved by Juliet in turn. Two souls now bursting with enchantment, forced to love when they ought to hate. A cruel grudge must agonize them in their love. Deemed a foe and kept afar from Juliet, Romeo hasn't the chance to whisper love's vows in her ear. Like him with her, she yearns to see him once again, for their happiness demands that intimacy. Love imparts the strength for this path. The brightest happiness is lain in the darkest need. After escaping the enemy by a hair, Romeo has not the will to flee from love. Mercutio, still fleet of foot, believed his friend at home. But Romeo is set on putting house and hate behind him. Concealed outside the Capulet gate, he merely awaits the right moment to reach Juliet unseen. Romeo doesn't linger when he sees the light in Juliet's room. As if borne by Amor's hand, in shadow he clambers high to that bright glow. At the edge of the balustrade, he pauses and takes a cautious peek across. Awash in doubt, Juliette feels she must know what had caused the feud. She steals away to her father's drawing room, seeking the legacy of her forefathers. The door to the past, yet one that her father has locked tight. Not one to give up, Juliette searches for the key to remembrance. Hidden remains the root of ancient hate, all that grows out of it senseless. Though the weed spreads rampant, Juliette is set on rescuing the shoot of her young love from its tendrils. Her tears are to water the tender sprout, that it flourishes and grows large. With a sigh, she steps outside and looks up at the clear, starry sky. From on high, the changing moon gazes down at our couple, who, as if guided by destiny's hand, met at the masked ball. In its shine, on the balcony, the two spy one another once more. As she lowers hers from the stars above, Juliette's eyes look into Romeo's. She is lost to him for good. Though she is not willing to let herself be won all too easily, his vow of fidelity, made as if entranced, is faithfully returned by her alike. Not only his heart is to secretly belong to her, he's to swear to God that he'll be true to her eternally. That very day, they want to promise their love in an abbey, and as the red dawn of morning brushes Juliette's cheeks, Romeo turns there to beg for support. With the first rays of morning sunlight, Romeo arrives at the abbey. There, he asks Friar Lawrence to bind two hearts, though long since united, in holy matrimony. The friar knows Romeo and his rapturous amours. Before willing to help, he wants to be sure how serious Romeo is about making such vows. As proof, the youngster must pass trials of virtue, 4 in all. Romeo has proven himself to be virtuous. Now he can be sure of the friar's help. Lawrence is glad to help him, hoping that this is a way to settle the old strife between the two houses. That very evening, he wants to hold the wedding. Having already seen herself as bride at the abbey, Juliette is now a prisoner in her own home. Her only thought, to flee from there. She begs her nurse to distract the guards. The old woman agrees, but hesitantly, for much is at stake. For the sake of young love, and loving Juliette as if she were her own child, she casts her doubts aside. Juliette sneaks out through the back door, the nurse close at her heels. Her shadow falls on Juliette, nearly scaring Juliette out of her wits. Once she recognizes the nurse at last, she falls relieved into her open arms. The good woman doesn't let the child she has raised for so long set off without support, and remains at Juliette's side. Romeo stands waiting at the abbey, and Juliette hurries to him. In God's name, they want to vow their eternal love to each other. The reunion turns into a celebration for both Romeo and Juliette. To the lovers, it's as if an eternity has gone by. Friar Lawrence can't help but smile at the young happiness before his old eyes. With new hope, he leads the couple to the altar. He turns two hearts and bodies into one as he gives the bridal couple his blessing. A sob brimming with happiness escapes the nurse thereby. The old woman presses the two to her bosom as if they were but one child to be protected. Lawrence himself urges them to be careful not to let the ancient grudge destroy such young happiness. Yet the lovers join in a kiss, carefree, as if there were no tomorrow. Speaking of the morrow, do I see evening approaching?
It's not that late yet. Those are merely thunderclouds. Rest easy and go on with the story.
Begging your pardon, Miss Anne. For today I'd rather leave it at that, at the point where they're all happy.
Where would it end otherwise?
At a point which this love does not deserve.
But why must it end there?
That, Miss Anne, is what I gladly want to relate to you tomorrow. For tonight, their happiness shall be a pillow for us to rest upon.
I won't be able to sleep on it if I don't know how the tale continues.
I promise you, Miss Anne, I shall wait for you on the morrow, and with me the tale, which means that you can go to bed in peace.
Well, if you can wait that long, then I'll be patient too.
Greetings to your father, and don't brood so much about the ending.
I shan't brood if I can dream that a happy end is in sight.
That dream you must look after well, even though a keen world wants to seize it from you.
I shall, till tomorrow morning.
Alas, if it were only tomorrow now, the loneliness of night. It's been tormenting me for days. How dearly I'd wish you could be with me. And, dearest, no sooner do I see my Saviour's daughter who bears your name, the more I must think of you. She has our daughter's eyes, so alert and clear when she listens tensely to the storytelling. Alas, if you were to encounter small Anne, you would love her as you would a daughter. You, my Anne, I love you and am yours for all eternity. You're an early worm today, Miss Anne. But do come in. You simply couldn't wait, could you?
Forgive me that I am not my niece, and for disturbing you so early in the morning. All I wanted to know is how my brother's guest is faring, and whether there is anything he lacks.
Thanks to your brother, I don't lack a thing. Allow me to introduce myself. Uильямом Shekspir, at your service.
We are cousins in name, parted merely by rank. Lord William Stanley. It's a pleasure, I'm sure.
And for me, an honor. What can I do for you?
Do for me? There's nothing you could. As for my brother, though, he is quite taken with you and the talent you refer to as theatre.
He is a connoisseur of my art like no other in this town.
You're right about that. He positively lives for it, which is surely better than dying for something else. What's your opinion, William?
The art of the stage shall serve life at all times. Solely the art of warfare serves death, my lord.
Yet when it serves the purposes of honor and heritage, it is worth fighting for, isn't it?
I am not well versed in fighting.
Believe me, I do understand you. The naked drawn sword, that is not your remit, although words can be a far worse weapon.
The words I write serve a purpose unto themselves, and the story being told, they surely have no other intention.
Intended or not, Watch your words, William, that the tongue which speaks them does not betray its holder.
I have naught to betray other than myself and my dreams.
Uncle William?
My dear niece, what a great pleasure to see you. You may gladly keep your dreams to yourself, as long as you keep my words in mind.
My thanks once again, my lord. I shall not forget them.
Master Shakespeare has time for you now. I wish you lots of fun with his fairy tales.
Fun that I shall have, Uncle William, though I don't need your wishes to do so.
Miss Anne, so nice that you've come, and that the graveness of life departs once more with your uncle.
I came as fast as I could. I didn't want to miss the story.
Without you, it has no chance to continue either. Where had we left off?
Where Juliet and Romeo were vowing their love before the altar.
How lovely it would be if things ended there, and it all took a turn for the best. But no sooner. The sun next day cooks emotions to a boil, and Tybalt seethes with rage because Romeo escapes. Self-styled guardian of Juliet's honor, he's bent on punishment. Seeing Romeo, he draws his sword, the brute. As for Romeo, he recognizes Juliet's cousin and would avoid a fight. Always one to stand by a friend, Mercutio draws his sword. Romeo rushes between them, merely wanting to part the two. Beneath Romeo's arm, Tybalt thrusts towards Mercutio. He stabs him mid-chest, a mortal wound, and Mercutio sinks to the pavement. Romeo is beside himself and deals a bloody blow that takes Tybalt's life. He flees with the blood of a friend and a cousin sticking to his hands. As for the citizens of Verona, they denounce the bloodbath. Again, the dispute has besmirched the streets of their city. The Capulets are off to hunt down Romeo, demanding that his blood too shall flow. As for him, he'd flee both their revenge and his own deed. But the mob corners him in a narrow alley, where he desperately seeks a way out. Chased by bloodlust and plagued by his own conscience, Romeo can only escape the former. Yet he does not remain unscathed. A sharp branch bores into his side. Leaning against a wall to regain his breath, he ends up sinking, exhausted, to the ground. Juliet learns of Romeo's flight and Tybalt's death from her nurse. The grief due to her cousin is outweighed only by her fear for Romeo's life. She must look for him, stand by him, with the nurse willing to help her. On the large plaza where Tybalt died and Mercutio too, Juliette's quest for a sign of life from her Romeo commences. Juliette discovers her Romeo in a narrow alleyway. He's running a fever and nigh onto delirious. She beds his head in her lap and dabs the sweat from his brow. Then she brings him to the abbey, to Friar Lawrence, the last safe haven. Having injured his hand, Lawrence needs Juliette's help to take care of Romeo's wounds. She is to prepare a tincture made of herbs in order to free her husband of his fever. Juliette's love and skill heal the wounds Romeo has suffered. She stays by his side till his life's fire has been newly fanned aflame. With Romeo snatched from death's jaws, Lawrence sends Juliette home. No need for her absence to arouse suspicion. Lost in curative sleep, Romeo dreams of Juliette and awakens in his bed alone. He calls out to his bride, the woman who brought him back to life. He believes that he has lost her too through his deed and is set on suicide. But the nurse comes just in time to grab the dagger out of his hand. Storming into the room behind her, Lawrence talks reason into the despairing man's head. Rather than fleeing from life, he ought to flee from certain death. Then that is what faces him if he remains in town any longer. But Romeo has had enough of fleeing. to Juliet and to lie in her arms is what he wants. The nurse agrees to help the young couple have a wedding night. If Romeo promises to flee afterwards, she will pave the way for him to Juliet. After a night that could have gone on forever, Romeo hears larks heralding the day clearly in his ears. For her part, Juliet swears it was nightingales, so that he stays with her. Yet Juliet's wish would have been his death sentence. Even so, to fulfill that wish, Romeo would have gladly taken such a sentence in stride. Juliet, mind you, is not willing to part with his life, not for an instant, and sends him off with her blessing. Come in.
I do hope I'm not bursting in on the tale at its best point.
Not at the best, Father, for there are quite a few of those. But you did interrupt Master William when it was particularly lovely and tragic.
Then I hereby beg your forgiveness, milady. I've come with something that brooks no delay.
Meaning that it's time for me to do embroidery or play the zither?
Neither nor. I've come with an offer for our guest.
Is this play going to be done on our stage? I can hardly wait.
Don't be so impatient, young lady. Give Master William just a bit more time to end the drama.
Thanks to your daughter, I'm progressing well and feel quite confident.
Then I shall see to it that I do what I can to get the play on stage as soon as possible.
Thank you for the faith you place in me. Yet, what else could have brought you to me that brooks no delay?
I found that ring that you received from your wife and were forced to sell.
My lord, that's...
It is with great pleasure that I hereby make a gift of it to you once again. Accept this remembrance of your Anne as gratitude for bringing such joy to mine.
'Tis not you who should be thanking me. I'm the one who is obliged to give thanks. You've not only given me a roof over my head, but a home in which I can act like a human being, and reside as well.
I do so gladly. Anne shall take added joy in presenting you with a stage for your first piece.
Oh, you must, Father. You surely won't regret it. You won't.
As I know that well, allow me to take leave of you. I want to get everything ready for the premiere.
You're setting such great hopes on so many empty pages.
William, I am certain you shall fill them yet.
You're not the only one who bears that certainty. I'm very eager to hear what happens next.
Then I won't stand in the way of a tale to tell, and say to you with a merry heart, farewell.
Master William, how does it continue now that Romeo had to flee from Verona after all?
He had to flee from Verona, but he has not left Juliet behind.
Does that mean she went with him?
No, she had to remain in Verona.
Then how can she be with him?
In his manly breast, there beats a heart that would never forget her.
A heart that would suffer eternally were they never to see each other again.
Though a heart that bears love in it can bleed, wither away it shall not.
The ring you've pressed so dearly to your chest, is that a symbol of such a love?
The one who gave it to me is the one I love. She made a gift of the ring out of love, yet the ring itself does not hold that love. Love does not abide in things.
What is it doing in Romeo's heart, pray tell?
Neither place, nor time, nor rules can bind love eternally. As long as this love abides, Romeo shall be there where Juliet is, and she with him.
And where is Romeo just now?
Not there where his heart yearns to take him. Where were we? Okay, Romeo fled to Mantua, waiting there as the minutes passed for news from Verona. There in town, Juliet awaits her fate, to see Romeo once more, or live on without him. Knowing nothing of this, her father makes his choice. His daughter's hand shall go to Count Paris. If it were up to the Count, she'd be his wife in a trace. He wants the wedding held the very next day. When the nurse hears this, she worriedly hastens to Juliet, who laments to forces far beyond us. I don't need the Count as husband, for I neither want to love him, nor can I ever love him. Despite this, the faithful nurse advises her to marry, for when Romeo's spell shall end, no one knows. Intended as Count Paris's wife as of the morrow, Juliet is set on fleeing from this second marriage. Desperate, she seeks out Friar Lawrence and begs him to help her. His counsel: a sleeping potion, a fluid with which she can feign her death. Seeing the potion as her only means of escape, Juliette attempts to brew it herself. The vial in her hand, Juliette seeks to find the courage. With one draught of the potion, she wants to place herself in an icy, death-like coma that very night, that she be brought, cold and pale as a corpse, to her ancestor's tomb, where Romeo is to rescue her. Yet Friar Lawrence begins to doubt his own plan. He asks one last time if Juliette is truly determined. She, in turn, leaves no doubt, declaring to him valiantly to be ready for anything, come what may. No sooner is she lain in the Capulet vault, he shall send a fellow friar to Mantua to fetch Romeo. Thus intended, news of Juliette's death shall reach him only so, and with it, life anew. He is to meet her in the vault and flee with her into the night. Juliette, freed from all cares and woe, goes home. Having arrived, she confidently agrees to the unwanted marriage, though she's well aware that the new day shall bring sorrow, not joy. She clasps the old nurse in her arms and bids her a good night, thinking all the while, farewell. Then she drops to her pillow, her worries her only companion, the potion concealed in one hand. Juliette finds not the slightest rest in bed. Doubts come a-creeping into her thoughts. Has the potion been brewed properly? And will Romeo receive the news at the right time? Suddenly she awakes in the dark, as if already placed in the vault from which she is set on escaping. From the tomb in her dream, Juliette was able to flee. Spying her Romeo in the exit's glow, she takes heart once more. As she loves him, she erases all doubt from her mind. She takes the potion, sets it to her lips, takes a draught, and shuts her eyes again. Come morning, the nurse enters the chambers to dress Juliette for the wedding. She discovers the beloved child in her very own bed, as if dead, the face a mask of deathly paleness, no sign of breath on her lips. Mourning casts its cloak over the house of the Capulets, though Juliette, who once shed so many a tear, now lies still on a funeral bier, and on that bier she is carried to the family tomb. Fraught with care at his planned success, Lawrence escorts the funeral. Lying in state, entombed by darkness, Juliette now awaits her Romeo, upon which the friar sends his courier to Mantua together with a fervent prayer to heaven.
What makes you pause, Master William?
It's to fan the flames of suspense, Miss Anne, and because I do need a sip of water.
I'll fetch you a cup from the kitchen downstairs.
No, Miss Anne, that's not...
The proper English way when a lady is at the gentleman's service, and one of rank for a mere commoner to boot.
I didn't want...
Whether you want to or not, William, your influence here in this house is more than meager. For that very reason, you shall speak with my brother on my behalf.
And what shall I say to him, my lord?
That he ought to think of his future rather than fritter it away. And do let him know that his future is edging closer.
What sort of future are you speaking of? And what does it imply for your brother?
Whatever I'm speaking of holds no significance. In contrast, my brother's role does.
But how am I to convince your brother if I don't know what you're talking about?
You're not supposed to convince him at all. Merely leave him in peace with your arrant nonsense.
What did my uncle want with you this time?
Alas, if I only knew, Miss Anne.
But didn't he say anything?
He spoke more than a little, but sadly, I was unable to tow his gist.
Towing the line is precisely what Uncle William demands of everyone here.
Even from your father?
So he doesn't demand it of him, he does expect that father demands it of himself.
And just where is your father supposed to express such obedience?
In his duty and his endeavors towards the house of Stanley.
But what does a duty like that consist of?
I don't know that for a fact. It has something to do with balls, with speaking to other noblemen there and winning them over for one's own ends.
A duty like that surely poses no great difficulty for your father, does it?
Certainly not the dancing, but the rest, yes. He says he would give a kingdom for one good ball. Mind you, Uncle William alleges to his face that he casts all else aside when there's fun to be had. And father replies that he couldn't care less about the pompous gits and their politics. What would all that power get him when he could no longer do what he chooses?
In all truth, the high and mighty are often powerless. For the most part, they do what they must, and rarely that what they want to.
What I want now is to go on listening to the story, Master William.
All right, fine. We are nearing the end. Whilst dreaming in exile of his Juliette, Romeo awakens in Mantua on the hard, cold ground, alone. He rues the time he has let slip by at this place, as much as the name Montague and its legacy. Freed from his guilt and destiny, asleep, he had visions of himself lying next to his Juliette, and hoped all the more that she'd forgive him his deed. Taking new heart, he sets off on his way, a way that's crossed by a faithful servant of the Montagues, who cluelessly carries the news of death with him. The young Capulet, dead and gone on her wedding day, shall be carried to her grave that same day. Upon hearing these words, Romeo's whole world falls in ruins. To the tomb he must, to bid her farewell, and to love itself. His only thought to take leave of it all, to join Juliette in death as companion. Beside his Juliette is where Romeo would lie. To die at her side, his ultimate goal. Now all is set on finding the way to her, that their immortal souls be united by his death. Upon discovering his beloved Juliette, Romeo kisses her cold lips. One last kiss that seals his resolve to rest in peace beside her for all eternity. He puts the poison to his lips, just a sip, and a gentler death shall save him from the throes of life. Juliette, the one who loves him, already awaits him on the other side. Pressed quite close to her, he falls asleep and shall awaken no more. Juliette wakes up, though still caught in a dream. She hears Romeo's voice calling to her, and wants naught but to him. The world goes a blur, and darkness shrouds Juliette in its veil. She finds herself back in her chambers. A shadow stands there in the doorway and turns to go. Was it her Romeo? Bursting with joy and fear alike, she follows his trail. Juliet finds her Romeo, though he merely gazes at her sadly. Before a word with him can be said, he begins to vanish before her eyes. As she tries to hold him tightly, all she grasps is emptiness, the touch of cold stone at her fingertips. Though she opens her eyes, all she sees is blackness, having been asleep when lain in the tomb. Numbed by the dream, recollection of what had occurred flows back into Juliet's mind, but only bit by bit. Friar Lawrence and his plan that had only seemingly killed her, the Capulet's vault where she now lies, yet where is Romeo, with whom she had so wanted to flee? Her gaze comes to rest at her side, on her beloved, who only seems to be sleeping. Overjoyed, she touches his lips with hers, but this kiss cannot waken the sleeping man. Juliet spies the poison which brought him the tranquility of death, though what remains would no longer suffice for her. She reaches for the dagger that Romeo wore at his side. Bedding herself on his breast, she lets the dagger sink into hers. Dead, lying intimately close, is how Lawrence finds the couple. He had come to the tomb to mark the plan's success. Now sorrow brings him to his knees. The message he had sent never reached Romeo. He knew only of Juliet's death, but nothing of the new life abiding within it. 'Twas not until death that Romeo and Juliet joined at last. A death that was meant to unite them in life.
Does the story have to end this way, Master William, without the slightest hope?
I do admit the ending could have taken a nicer turn, but it's supposed to be a lesson to us.
About what?
The power of love that surmounts all limits, even that drawn by death. In the end, it is stronger than age-old hate. Reconciliation spreads from its roots. Father Lorenzo announces the news to the town of how Romeo and Juliet passed away, united as lovers. Horrified by the strife that has borne such grave consequences, the Capulets and Montagues made peace at last. Together, they leave a memorial to the loving couple, an eternal reminder that love is to be revered, not hate. For never before had there been a destiny wrought with more suffering than that of Romeo and Juliet.
Bravo, William! A brilliant ending! Bravo! Do pardon us for disturbing you at work. You've already met my brother. Indeed he has. We've even spoken in more intimate detail. Yet today I'm quite pleased that I shall be entertained by your verses for the first time. If I've understood the play's conclusion correctly, it's a tragedy, isn't it?
It is a tale of star-crossed love.
The point in time to perform such a piece in London is equally star-crossed. Christopher Marlowe, the town's greatest dramatist, said the very same thing to me just recently. Tragedies are not something to delight audiences with. In hard times like these, they want to see something light-hearted. The clientele pays to see comedies that make them laugh and allow them to forget all else.
But first you must lend an ear to how Master Shakespeare...
I'd have thought you would have brought my niece up with sufficient decency. Interrupting grown-ups in the midst of a conversation is just not done, my child. My dear brother, she has such decency, though she has also learned to speak up for what's important to her. For what is important to her means the world to you, Ferdinando. Yet this time, dear brother, is not a matter of child's play. Master Shakespeare's play may have its points, but it would be a mistake to have it run at our theatre any time soon. Anne loves the stories that unfold the way you do your business, brother. I am aware that in times like these, the coins may not ring in our till with material like this. Though if I had my way, we'd venture it despite it all, and bring Shakespeare's play to our stage. You love art. The money doesn't matter to you. But our artists must be fed. If Master Shakespeare can wait, then it's surely with his best in mind. Well, you're not all wrong that the date of the premiere can also decide the play's success. To that end, Master Shakespeare, I shall gladly help you. As a result, I ask you to please understand that I am following Marlowe's and my brother's advice. Don't lose heart about it. Just keep on writing. I'm sure your time will come. But right now, I have a matter of greater importance to discuss with my brother. William, forgive me. My own duties bind me. Which is why I must make do without many things I might want.
My lord, how well I grasp your situation. As for me, I can't rid myself of the feeling that I'm spinning in circles.
Don't let it discourage you. No one knows your play as well as I do, and I'm convinced of how good it is.
I thank you for your words. But without a stage, these pages remain lifeless.
Believe me, I shall pressure my father into staging the story of Romeo and Juliet soon. I want to see it on stage.
Romeo and Juliet. Not a bad title at all. In any case, better than Veronese romance. And if the audience isn't right for a play like this, well, I've already got the idea for another in my head.
Would you like to tell me about it?
I'd love to, Miss Anne. Do come back tomorrow. I shall be waiting. And with me, a new tale.